Howdy, folks, and welcome to another day in the Milky Way with my co-host, Hawkeye David. No, Hawkeye Two Feathers. Thank you for coming on.
David, no, Hawkeye Two Feathers.
We are on time tonight. I don't even know what we're doing because we're on time. Holy cow! What kind of show is this? We actually showed up on time.
And as always, we greet you with the love and the honor of the infinite creator. And we continue to pray that each and every day that each and every one of you will continue to learn how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, and the wisdom from the universe. And we hope that you will stay with us. We got a long story tonight that we've been kind of sort of saving up. And we've been giggling before we started. So, we hope you're having a giggling good time. And I stole this from Robert, but this is Thursday now instead of Tuesdays. We hope that you have caught up with us. Back to you, Robert.
Oh yeah, we're now going to be on Thursday nights. Didn't really want to switch the nights, but hey, it works better for my work schedule, and I can give you a better show, being less tired, more prepared. And because I want to give quality shows, and you can't give a quality show if you're snoozing at the wheel. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so, being tired will dang sure make you forget things. And for those folks of you who, when you stayed up too long and you wake up the next day and it's like, oh man, you can't really remember stuff and it's hard. Robert puts in some long days and traveling time, and when he gets home, it's hard. So, Thursdays gives him a chance to be more relaxed. And I'm proud to stick with you, Robert.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Because I was worried that it would interrupt your schedule. And we've been at it so long on Tuesdays. I didn't know how the audience is gonna take it, but hey, they're showing up. Look at Elderberry's in the house. I kept checking last Tuesdays. Don't worry, Elderberry. It's Thursday from now. I even put up a post. So we'll be on Thursday nights. There is Nina from Beyond Truth in the house. Thank you all for showing up tonight, and I'm sure everybody else will be showing up too. If they haven't forgot, but people get used to the new time, and well, not the new time, same time, different day. That's it. I know it's going to be a little rocky start, but anyway, but tonight we got some Hawkeye's right. He's got a long story from the Legends and Folk Tales book. A lot of pages there. It's going to be a longer story. So I decided we're just going to talk about Frontier Tales. We just haven't talked about Frontier Tales in a long time. And I have this book from the 1860s. It's Adventures of Early Settlers by a guy named, what is his name? It's got thrilling adventures among the early settlers. And he is that's by Warren Wildwood Esquire. What a name. It was published on the John W. Lovett Company. This is an older book, definitely an older book. There's a lot of good stories in here from the 1700s. So we're going to check out some of them tonight. Believe it or not, I found a what am I talking about? I found a PDF, so we can all follow along, because who doesn't like to follow along with the story? And then you can see me reading it too. And we'll share the screen. And this is a pretty old book, but I found some good stories in there. And some of the words, these people, they just spell them like they sound. So even then, it makes it easy to read, but they really talk differently. So, so anyway, time for the Frontier Tales. So we're not going to lecture you. This is not a timeline. We're going to jump around on this. And tonight, stories from the West when it was still being fought over. traded over and argued over. A lot of people learned that the West through dime novels. Have you ever heard of Buffalo Bill? Buffalo Bill stories, the dime novels. He was real popular. There was Buffalo Bill posters and all that kind of stuff. There was other ones too. There was tons of them.
And later on, it was about Billy the Kid and you know, and the James Gang and things like that. So the dime novels, you know, were stories that were told about the West and what was going on. But you know, they started way back when the first pioneers were crossing over on their prairie schooners. So go ahead, Robert.
And they were stories, a lot of vivid add-ons too, you know, to make it a little more exciting. But the real frontier ran on different things: horses and hunger, weather and distance and decisions. Most meetings between people weren't a battle scene. It was mostly negotiating, trading, warning, or trying to figure out who was safe and who wasn't. Remember, you're your own lawman pretty much. So tonight, me and Hawkeye, we're going to go tell these stories the way they would have been carried on, the kind you would hear at around a campfire. Just imagine, we're all going to sit around the campfire tonight, or in a trading post, or outside a fort, or on the edge of town that popped up too fast. Some will be native stories of the homeland and the movement and survival, and some will be settler stories of travel and fear and hard luck and learning. And the land the hard way was conquered. And we're going to keep it honest. Not that we've been lying to you, but we're always honest. Sometimes the stories are about cooperation, and sometimes misunderstanding, and sometimes it's just consequences. But tonight I'm going to start out with a story about a guy named Bigfoot, and he wasn't a hairy beast either. Which is a good story. Let's see, we're going to share the screen so you can all see what I'm seeing. And there we go. And this is a story of Poe's desperate encounter with Bigfoot. Now, to set the story, Bigfoot is a native. He's an Indian warrior. And Poe is the wielding young man, you know, who's out to conquer everything. So, about the middle of July, 1782.
Wait, hang on.
Okay.
I'm going to set up something. And this guy's probably 5'5", by the way. Just think about that. Here's this guy that's coming in. He's probably about 5'5". Go ahead, Robert.
Yeah. Okay. In 1782, 7 Wyandots crossed the Ohio a few miles above Wheeling and committed great trouble upon the southern shore, killing an old man whom they found alone in his cabin and spreading terror throughout the neighborhood. Within a few hours after their retreat, 8 men assembled from different parts of a small settlement and pursued the enemy with great expedition. Among the most active and efficient of these, the party, were 2 brothers, Adam and Andrew Poe. Adam was particularly popular in strength, action, and hardihood. He had no equal, being finely formed and insured to all the perils of the woods. Okay, and they had not followed the trail far before they became satisfied that the malicious people were conducted by Bigfoot, a renowned chief of the Wyandot tribe, who derived his name from the immense size of his feet. His height considerably exceeded 6 feet, and his strength was represented as Herculean. He had also 5 brothers, but little inferior to himself in size and courage, and they generally went in company. They were the terror of the whole country, and Adam Poe was overjoyed at the idea of measuring his strength with that of a so celebrated chief, and urged the pursuit with a keenness which quickly brought him into the vicinity of the enemy. For the last few miles, the trailhead led him up to the southern bank of the Ohio, where the footprints in the sand were deep and obvious. But when within 100 yards of the point at which the whites were well as the Indians were in habit of crossing, it suddenly derived from the stream and stretched along a rocky ridge, forming an obtuse angle in its former direction. Here, Adam halted for a moment and directed his brother, the younger of the men, to follow the trail with proper caution, while he himself still adhered to the river path, which led through the clusters of willows directed to the point where he supposed the enemy to lie. Having examined the priming of his gun, remember they got black powder guns, and through the bushes until he had a view of the point of the embankment. Here lay 2 canoes, empty and apparently deserted. And being satisfied, however, that the Indians were close at hand, he relaxed nothing of his vigilance and quickly gained a jutting cliff which hung immediately over the canoes. Hearing a low murmur below, he peered cautiously over and beheld the object of his search, the gigantic Bigfoot, which lay down below him in the shade of a big willow, and was taking a low, deep tone to another, or he was talking to the next warrior in a low, deep tone, who seemed a mere pygmy by his side. Adam cautiously drew back and cocked his gun. The mark was fair, and the distance did not exceed 20 feet, and his aim was unhearing. Raising his rifle slowly and cautiously, he took a steady aim at Bigfoot's breast and drew the trigger. His gun flashed. Both Indians sprung to their feet with a deep interjection of surprise, and for a single second, all 3 stared upon each other. This inactivity, however, was soon over, and Adam was too much hampered by the bushes for retreat, and setting his life upon a cast of the die, he sprung over the bush which had sheltered him, and summoning all his powers, leaped boldly down the precipice and aligned upon the breast of Bigfoot, with a shock which bore him to the earth. And within a moment of contact, Adam had also thrown his right arm around the neck of the smaller Indian, so that all 3 came to the earth together. At that moment, a sharp firing was heard among the bushes and above, announcing that the other parties were engaging, but the trio below were too busy to attend to anything but themselves. Bigfoot was, for an instant, stunned by the violence of the shock, and Adam was enabled to keep them both down, but the exertion necessary for that purpose was so great that he had no leisure to use his knife, and Bigfoot quickly recovered without attempting to rise, wrapped his long arms around Adam's body and pressed him to his breast with the crushing force of a boa constrictor. Adam, as we have already remarked, was a powerful man, and he seldom encountered his equal, but never had he yet felt the embrace like that of Bigfoot. He instantly relaxed his hold of the small Indian, who sprung to his feet, and Bigfoot then ordered him to run for his tomahawk, which lay within 10 steps, and kill the white man, while he held him in his arms. Adam, seeing the danger, struggled manfully to extricate himself from the folds of the giant, but in vain. The lesser Indian approached with his uplifting tomahawk, but Adam watched him closely, and when about to strike, he gave him a big kick so sudden and violent as to knock the tomahawk from his hand and send him staggering back to the water. Bigfoot uttered an exclamation in a tone of a deep contempt as the failure of his companion, and raising his voice to the highest pitch, thundered out several words in the Indian tongue which Adam could not understand, but supposed to be in that direction for a second attack. The lesser Indian now again approached, carefully shunning Adam's heels and making many motions with his tomahawk in order to deceive him as to the point where the blow would fall. Well, this lasted for several seconds until a thundering exclamation from Bigfoot compelled his companion to strike. Such was Adam's dexterity and vigilance, however, that he managed to receive the tomahawk in a glancing direction upon his left wrist, wounding him deeply, but not disabling him. And he now made a sudden and desperate effort to free himself from the arms of the giant, and succeeded, instantly snatching up a rifle, for the Indian could not venture to shoot for fear of hurting his companion. He shot the smaller Indian through the body. But scarcely had he done so when Bigfoot arose and, placing one hand upon his collar and another upon his hip, pitched him 10 feet into the air, as he himself would have pitched a child. Adam fell upon his back at the edge of the water, but before the antagonizing could spring upon him, he was again upon his feet, and stung with rage at the idea of being handled so easily. He attacked this gigantic antagonist with a fury which for a time compensated for inferiority of his strength. It was now a fair fistfight between them, for in a hurry of struggle, neither had the leisure to draw their knives. Adam's superior activity and experience as a pugilist gave him great advantage. The Indian struck awkwardly, and finding himself rapidly dropping to leeward, he closed with his antagonist and again hurtled him to the ground. They quickly rolled into the river, and the struggle continued, unbathed fury, which attempting to drown each other. The Indian being unused to such violent exertion, and having been much injured by the first shock, which he got shot in the gut. Oops, and we lost our picture. It's always something, isn't it? The dead silence. Okay, of the spinning little wheel.
Can I pose something as we're watching that go around?
Yeah.
As old as that book is, and whoever wrote it, how did they know that he was squeezing as hard as a boa constrictor?
That's a good question.
I mean, that I was like, what? Boa constrictor? I mean, so the writer had to know what a boa constrictor was all the way back in those days.
Yes.
So anyway, go ahead.
Let's try this again.
I just find that very interesting. That they could make that.
There's a page
example.
And then there's no page, and then there's a page.
There was. I bet you there was pictures there.
No pictures there. Let me find it in here and finish the story if it ain't gonna come up. I don't know. That's kind of weird that the picture won't come up on me. It's kind of sad. But hey, we got backup because I got an actual book. See, this is the problem with things nowadays. You don't have a real book, and then
you don't know the real story.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Buy a book in print. They're finding out. While we're waiting for a second, are you ready?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, unable to exert the same powers which he'd been given such a decided superiority at first, Adam, seizing him by the scalp lock, put his head under the water and held it there until the faint struggles of the Indian induced him to believe that he was drowned. When he relaxed his hold and attempted to draw his knife, the Indian, however, used Adam's own expression and had only been playing possum. He instantly regained his feet and in his turn put his adversary under. In the struggle, both were carried out into the current beyond the depth, and each was compelled to relax his hold and swim for his life. There was still one loaded rifle upon the shore, and each swam hard in order to reach it. But the Indian proved the most expert swimmer. The Indian proved the most expert swimmer, and Adam, seeing that he should be too late, turned and swam out into the stream, intending to dive and thus frustrate his enemy's intention. At this instant, Andrew, having heard that his brother was alone and in a struggle with the two Indians and in a great danger, ran up hastily to the edge of the bank above in order to assist him. Another white man followed him closely, and seeing Adam at the river covered with blood and swimming rapidly from the shore, mistook him for an Indian and fired upon him, wounding him.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. Well, look, there's the Indian in the water. Oops. And he wounded him dangerously in the shoulder. Adam turned and, seeing his brother, called loudly upon him to shoot the big Indian upon the shore. Andrew's gun, however, was empty, having just been discharged. Fortunately, Bigfoot had also seized the gun with which Adam had been shot, and who shot the lesser Indian, and so both were upon an equal contest. Now, who should load first? Remember, these are black powder guns. Bigfoot poured in his powder first, and drawing his ramrod out of his sheath, and in too great a hurry, threw it into the river. And while he ran to recover it, Andrew gained an advantage, and still the Indian was but a second too late, for his gun was at his shoulder when Andrew's ball entered his breast. The gun dropped from his hands, and he fell forward upon his face upon the very margin of the river. Andrew, now alarmed for his brother, who was scarcely able to swim, threw down his gun and rushed into the river in order to bring him ashore. But Adam, more intent upon securing the scalp of Bigfoot as a trophy than upon his own safety, called loudly to his brother to leave him alone and scalp the big Indian, who was now trying to roll himself into the water. From a romantic desire particular to the Indian warrior of securing his scalp from the enemy. And Andrew, however, refused to obey, and insisting upon saving the living before attending to the dead. Bigfoot, in the meantime, had succeeded in reaching the deep water before he expired, and his body was bore off by the waves without being stripped of its ornamental and pride of the Indian warrior. Not a man of the Indians had escaped. Wait a minute. I think we're getting to the end. Okay. Not a man of the Indians had escaped. 5 of Bigfoot's brothers, the flower of the Wyandot Nation, had accompanied him in his expedition, and all perished. It was said that the news of his calamity threw the whole tribe into mourning, and their remarkable size, their courage, and their superior intelligence gave them immense influence, which greatly to their credit was generally exerted on the side of humanity. Their powerful intentions or opposition had saved many prisoners from the stake and had given a milder character to warfare of the Indians in the part of that country. A chief of the same name was alive in that part of the country so late in 1892, but whether a brother or a son of Bigfoot is not known. Adam Poe recovered from his wounds and lived many years after his memorable conflict, but never forgot the tremendous hug which he sustained in the arms of Bigfoot. Well, there you go. What a story. So the guy, gets there and he
cheats.
Huh?
He cheats. He hides in the bushes and shoots him first and then attacks him like that's a fair fight. Oh, man.
I know.
What?
I mean, I mean, he sneaks up
ambush,
on him and
now
he
I'm
just,
gonna attack you, okay, go, I'm
yeah, and
sorry, go
then he
ahead.
shoots him and then he jumps out. Now the guy's wounded and he, tries to, tackle him and get him down and yada, yada, yada. And they fight. And Bigfoot, he's so nervous that after he gets out of the water, I suppose he was probably hurting from getting shot and going through that fight in the water. And then what does he do? Oh, he pulls it, because you got to take that black powder gun. You take that ramrod out and you put your powder, you bite your thing and you put the thing and you do the powder. And then you take the ramrod out and you got to stuff the wad and everything down there and pack it and put your ball in. And he whips that thing out. I know because I got a black powder gun. And he whips that thing out and it flies off into the river. Talk about bad luck. It just wasn't his day. You know what I mean?
But he made it to the deep water, and that's important. I see the story and how the white man would hey, elderberry. But I can see that white folks of that day, the what?
Yeah.
The rubber boa?
Yeah, the rubber boa is native to Western U.S. Huh, I didn't know that.
Neither did I. But anyway, thank you. I just brought it up because, like, where did they hear about a boa? Yeah. Most snakes do squeeze. It was just interesting that they used boa. I guess the white people that read that story years ago and read that book, they would have like, oh man, white guy, bravo, shot the Indian, killed him. I find it alarming.
Oh yeah, I know. I
mean, do. It's like you just snuck up on him, shot him, and then look how strong I am. Anyway, I'm done with that. Next story.
Well, and that's the thing is, these stories, they are campfire stories. I mean, that whole incident probably couldn't have took 20 minutes, maybe at the most. Yeah, and because
when you're wrestling stuff like that, 10 minutes goes by, that, and with rolling in and then grab this and you're into the water and trying to dunk, and the next thing you're back on the shore, and 10 minutes would have been a long fight, but 20 minutes extended, absolutely, Robert.
Yeah, I know, and that's the thing. Wait until I find this other page. We just got to keep talking until I find the right page. Yeah, this is a big book, and it pages through pretty slow. So sorry about that.
It's amazing how some of as many stories as we have read over the last 2 or 3 years now going on, that it's amazing how the author of the story doesn't necessarily sound like an Indian. They tell the Indian story, they relate what the story was about, and that he was squeezed like a boa. It's like that's would he have used that word, or is it the storyteller's word?
Yeah,
I'm not saying that it's wrong, but from the point of the story itself, did he relate how he felt to the storyteller who actually wrote it down, or did he write the story down? I'm just curious.
Yeah, no,
it felt like a boa constrictor. Oh, or did the storyteller say he was squeezed so hard like a boa?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to. That's not a criticism, by the way. It's just who was telling the story and who wrote the story. So when I read the stories, I read the stories and I think to myself, now who's telling this story? This is a reproduction of a story that somebody told the storyteller? There are people who have told me stories, and I have related some of them actually, on here. But So the campfire story is heard by another storyteller,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
he hears the story and is writing things down, and in his own way he's telling the campfire story. So go ahead, Robert. Are you ready
Okay.
for
Yep.
another?
I got one. We're gonna do the Rangers' thrilling Indian adventure. I gotta get some of these where they got the Indians and some of them are just settler stories, but I like the ones that are an Indian adventure and whatever. But like we said, yeah, the story itself is carried on by the tall tale. Remember we talked about some of these mountain men, how they could tell the tall tales. Jim Bridger and some of these other guys they could tell a really good story, and
Yeah,
therefore these
they yeah, they really mastered the art of storytelling, and standing around them. Imagine, it's cold outside, and these guys are standing in front of a fireplace, you know,
yeah,
and they're standing with their arm on the fireplace, telling this story to whoever's in the room,
yep,
and so and these guys have had many miles of walking and traveling and trapping to practice the story.
well, absolutely. There was no radio, there was no television, and around the campfire in the evening, what are you gonna do? You got you don't have much choice but to, tell the stories. Like we talked about the natives, in the wintertime, the children would go and hear grandpa or the chief or whoever that was tell stories. And then they would memorize them so they could tell them to their children or whatever, later in life. And that's how they got passed on because they didn't have reading and writing and all of that stuff. So in some ways, I'm glad we have reading and writing because when that person dies, and especially nowadays, once they pass on, those stories are dead and gone.
Yep.
There is nobody to, oh, we're going to, tell oh, yeah, grandpa died and he didn't tell me anything. And now I got nothing.
Yeah,
Right?
and look at the hours of stories that we have discussed and read. you
Yeah.
know but it's digital. It's on the internet, and it can be gone in the blink of an eye. And we've discussed many things, to try to bring up old traditions and how hard it was for people in the day, to become Americans,
Yes.
you know
Yeah.
and
And
the things that are going on right now in the Supreme Court, trying to determine who's an American now.
yep.
Well, you had a baby here, and he's an American now. But to the true Americans, they fought their way, and they, even though sometimes, this it was a little outnumbered with a gun, but um they fought for what they had in the old days,
They
literally.
did. They did. They did. They sure did.
And
Okay.
that's
Well,
what makes America, by the way. But go
it,
ahead.
it is. Okay. Well, we're going to get on with this story. And then when I finish this one, we'll get on with your story. And then it looks like Lucky has posted the cards, everyone. He's posted the cards and the to pick from, and get your pick in. And we'll be pulling cards later, right?
Yep, I got the cards down here warming up.
All right. Good deal. Okay. We're going to do the Rangers' thrilling Indian adventure. Now, remember, most of these stories here are all true stories. Maybe not embellished as much as they probably are, but they're true for the most part. At 19 years of age, Dr. Blank of Massachusetts joined the Army and the Providences that in 1755 essayed to take Crown Point from the French, and he marched to the lakes with Colonel Ephraim Williams, whom a more gallant man never breathed the air of New England. The doctor fought under his command at Lake George on the memorable 8th of September, saw or managed He saw the fall of his brave leader and is quite sure that he put a bullet into the French officer, Mons Saint Pierre. The next year, he joined Rogers' company. Remember, there was Rogers Rangers. Rogers Rangers, and was stationed with the party of them at Fort Anne, not far from where Whitehall now stands. But at that day, it was a dark and bloody ground, a frontier station in the forest, which was filled with rival savages attached to France or England. One day in the midwinter, 8 rangers with a sergeant were ordered out of on some service, and the doctor did not know what, probably to seize some straggling Frenchman about Ticonderoga or Crown Point, and bringing him to the fort for the sake of obtaining intelligence. He was himself one of the party. A narrow road, or rather a path, led northwards towards Canada, and they followed it for several hours. They had just been there had just been a heavy snowfall, and all the pines and hemlocks in the forest were loaded thick with it. And as that afternoon was still and clear, and occasionally some snowflakes or light masses dropped from the burdened boughs like feathers, and these circumstances were stamped on the old man's mind, seeming like a constant reoccurring dream. The rangers waded in Indian file, that means single file, through the snow, and as danger was apprehended, a man was placed some rods, which is, a rod is like 20 feet or something like that, something like that, in advance, and one on each flank and another behind. And this last was the doctor himself. And this was the gun I carried, said he, taking a short, heavy piece from a corner. At length, they descended into the hollow. A frozen sheet of Lake George lay not far on to the left, and a steep hill on to the right. The ground a short distance before them was low and swampy, and a little brook had spread itself out on the path, making a frozen space, free from trees, across which their advanced man was now slowly trampling and crushing his boots into the ice and water at every step. He paused suddenly, turning sharply round, and gave the low whistle, pointing as a signal of alarm. He had seen the tracks of many moccasined feet in fresh snow beyond, and there was not time to think. A loud report of a gun broke the silence. The ranger gave a shrilling scream and leaped 4 feet into the air and fell flat. Instantly, the Indian yell burst from the woods on our right and on our left, followed by a stunning rattle of more than 50 guns, and not a man of the rangers but one ever moved alive from that spot where he stood transfixed with surprise at the sudden death of his comrades. That man was our hero, who, positioned far behind the rest, saved himself. He remembered the panic felt as a fierce burst of yells and musketry, and the sudden rush of the savage swarm from their ambush upon the fallen comrades. And in the next instant that his memory could recall, he was flying back towards the fort. He heard sharp, sudden yelps behind him, and a glancing back saw 2 Indians bounding on his track. He ran a mile, he should think, without turning or hearing a single sound. Then, turning his head, saw an Indian leaping, silent as specter, within a few rods of him. With admirable coolness, he turned quickly round, and raising his gun with a steady hand, fired with such good effect that the Abenaki pitched forward to the ground. His shaven head plunged up to the snow for yards by the impulse of his headlong pursuit. The young soldier turned and fled again. As he did so, he heard the report of another Indian's gun, followed by the loud humming of a ball. So alert and attentive were his faculties that he observed where the bullet struck upon a loaded bough in front of him, scattering the glittering particles of snow. The path was now downward with a steep descent, and the bottom of an ancient pine tree had fallen across it, whose sharp broken branches rose up perpendicularly from the prostrate trunk 4 or 5 feet from the ground, blocking up the way like a bristling, I don't know what that chamferized. The ranger had previously turned aside to avoid it. There was no time to do so now. The doctor's limbs were small and light, but he was as active as a deer, and the Indian's tomahawk was so close behind. Without hesitating, he ran down and sprang into the air. His foot caught so that he fell on the other side, but he snatched up his gun and ran again. In a moment, he heard a wild and horrid cry, and turning as he ran up the opposite hill, he saw the sight that has murdered his sleep for many nights since. That daring savage had leaped like him, but not so well. He had tripped, and one of his broken branches had caught and impaled him on the upright point, passing upwards into the cavity of his chest. He saw the starting eyeballs and the painted features hideously distorted, and paused to see no more. About sunset, the sentinels of the Fort Anne saw him emerging from the woods and running as if the Indians were still behind him. A strong party sent out the next morning found the bodies of the rangers stripped and frozen in the various positions in which they had died, so that they appeared like marble statues. On a tree close by, the French officer who commanded the Abenakis had fastened a piece of birch bark inscribed with the insolent and triumphant message to the English. The bodies of the 2 Indians had been removed, although the white snow around the old pine tree retained marks of the tragedy and had been enacted there, and was beaten hard by the moccasins of a crowd of savages who had gathered about the place. The taste of war was enough for the doctor's martial zeal. He did not take the field again till 20 years afterwards, when he came to Washington's camp at Cambridge, armed with probe and balsam instead of a musket and powder. And that is the story of the Rangers.
Wow, they met a horrible demise, didn't they?
Yeah, that was pretty. They got ambushed and shot at, and I feel bad for him, but he hung back and ran like the dickens. And that other Indian, the first Indian he shot, and his gun was probably out of powder, and he was running so fast he didn't have time to load it. And then that next one, he just had. That's the thing. Nature itself is a peril. You could get killed from just slipping and falling. Not that it wouldn't happen today, but I'm just saying is that it happens.
Oh, it would happen today. I mean, there are trees down in the forest all the time with sticks, little pieces of sticks sticking out. I've had pine trees fall here on the property, and there are things and I'm not trying to slide in the snow or nothing, or downhill. So, I can just imagine, having been in the mountains years ago, especially in the snow, and how treacherous it was if you slipped and you didn't have to go far, and there was a tree down, and there's all kinds of limbs sticking out, and it would be easy to get impaled. So I see the story as being real true, and how that guy didn't get impaled himself, and he telling about it that he made it over, but the Indian didn't. So, but anyway, that's a very good story.
It is. I mean, and I love the words, how they use the words. They use such, I mean, when you read it, you understand it because it's not that old, but it's the way they word things. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because like he talks about these things, and he refers to he really colors the story by talking about like the white snow around the old pine tree, an ancient pine tree. It wasn't just a pine tree, it was an ancient pine tree, and it was for the trunk, the prostrate trunk, I mean, today we would just say the large trunk or something like that
The
was
pine
4 or
tree
5.
fell down.
Yeah, the pine tree fell down, and then he says it was blocking the way, like a bristling chavanou or whatever it is. It's some kind of French word. Yeah, we'd just say it was blocking the way, and the limbs were like spikes or something. I
Oh yeah.
mean, that's they just use different terms,
But
and
also in the beginning too, Robert, when you were describing how there was the snow on the tree limbs and so forth.
yeah,
Um, Thank you all. Thanks for the thumbs up. We always appreciate that. But
that's right.
if you've ever been in the snow, and especially, well, the snow in the wintertime, but
Yeah,
that's kind of obvious. But there's so much snow that when you walk by, it gets on you and it's wet and droopy, and so you walk trudging through this snow, and it's not very pleasant,
yeah. And then I love how they do it. The occasional flakes are light masses dropped from the burdened boughs like feathers. I mean, today we'd just say it was a heavy snow, and chunks of snow would fall off and hit you, or something like that.
Yeah, the
But
burdened boughs is like that to me. I can see that it's like they're really they're full of snow and just dripping. But anyway, so a
I
very
just
interesting story.
I wonder. I know language has changed, but I wonder if people actually talked like that back in the
Yes,
day.
they did.
You know.
That's the
Um,
interesting thing about it. They really, honest to goodness, spoke like that back in the day.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine. I mean,
Because
obviously they had to.
because when you having listened to the Civil War on television, where they read the letters from the privates and the people in the war, and they
Yep,
spoke like that when they
yep,
wrote home.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It just, I mean, our language. I mean, I hate to say it, but we've really degraded our language.
Yes, we have.
you know, I mean, it is really degrading.
They
I feel
don't
bad.
teach English anymore.
No, 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 not teaching much. Okay, there we go. Trying to get your story pulled up.
Oh, all right. We're going into that. All right. Let me
Yep.
get ready.
Yeah, get your story right, because where is I know I had it. I pulled it over. Oh, okay. And I'm getting it ready too here. Looks like it. Oh, here it is. Yeah, because you need a little more time to read it and then do the cards tonight. And if I start another story, I won't get done for another 10 or 15 minutes. So,
Yep. Let's
but
start it.
all right. And
It is
like,
it is a long story. So
yeah, just remember, people, these stories are handed down through generations, and and things, and this is how they communicated news. Literally, this is how you communicate news and things. How else would you know about the doctor and Rogers Rangers and the adventures they have? They didn't get famous by just saying, "Yep, Roger had some Rangers and they had a battle." You know what I mean? There's stories that went along with it.
yeah, and back in the day, it was they made a name for themselves. That's how
They do.
people knew them.
They did. They did. Stories like that really carried far. I mean, to back then, I can imagine that would be like watching an action adventure movie. Let's hear the story of Rogers Rangers, the story about the Bigfoot, and Poe, Andrew Poe and Bigfoot. I want to hear that story. That's like, watching Star Wars. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So anyway, okay, you're all set. It's all yours.
All right. Here is story time for tonight. And as always, we appreciate you being here and listening in. And this story is from the same book that I've been reading from now for a while, and it's called Folklore and Legends, North American Indian, by Philadelphia, J.B. Lippincott Company, 1891. So it's before the turn of the last century, the 2 centuries ago, I guess. So the name of this story is Papakiwis. A man of large stature and great activity of mind and body found himself standing alone on a prairie. He thought to himself, "How came I here? Are there no beings on this earth but myself? I must travel and see. I must walk till I find the abodes of men." So as soon as his mind was made up, he set out. He knew not whither, in search of habitations. No obstacles diverted him from his purpose. Prairies, rivers, woods, and storms did not daunt his courage or turn him back. After traveling a long time, he came to a wood in which he saw a decayed stumps of trees, as if they had been cut in ancient times. But he found no other traces of men. Pursuing his journey, he found more recent marks on the same kind, and later on he came to fresh traces of human beings. First, their footsteps, and then the wood they had cut lying in heaps. Continuing on, he emerged towards dusk from the forest and beheld at a distance a large village of high lodges standing on rising ground. He said to himself, "I will arrive there at a run." Off he started with all his speed, and on coming to the first lodge, he jumped over it. Those within saw something pass over the top, and then they heard a thump on the ground. "What is that?" they all said. One came out to see, and finding a stranger, invited him in. He found himself in the presence of an old chief and several men who were eating in the lodge. Meat was set before him, after which the chief asked him where he was going and what his name was. He answered he was in search of adventures, and that his name was Papakiwis, grasshopper. The eyes of all were fixed upon him. "Papakiwis," said one to another, and the laugh went round. Papakiwis made but a short stay in the village. He was not easy there. The place gave him no opportunity to display his powers. "I will be off," he said, and taking with him a young man who had formed a strong attachment for him, and who might serve him as a meshanawa, an official who bears the pipe, he set out once more on his travels. The two traveled together, and when the young man was fatigued with walking, Papakiwis would show him a few tricks, such as leaping over trees and turning round on one leg till he made the dust fly in a cloud around him. In this manner he very much amused his companion, though at times his performance somewhat alarmed him. One day they came to a large village where they were well received. The people told him that there were a number of Manitos who lived some distance away, and who killed all who came to their lodge. The people had made many attempts to extirpate these Manitos, but the war parties that went out for this purpose were always unsuccessful. I will go and see them, said Papacoevis. The chief of the village warned him of the danger he would run, but finding him resolved, said, well, if you will go, since you are my guest, I will send 20 warriors with you. Papacoevis thanked him for this. 20 young men offered themselves for the expedition. They went forward, and a short time descried the lodge of the Manitos. Papacoevis placed his friend and the warriors near him, so that they might see all that passed, and then he went alone into the lodge. When he entered, he found 5 horrible-looking Manitos eating. These were the father and 4 sons. Their appearances were hideous. Their eyes were set low in their heads, as if the Manitos were half starved. They offered Papacoevis part of the meat, but he refused it. What have you come for? Asked the old one. Nothing, answered Papacoevis. All at this, they all stared at him. Do you not wish to wrestle? They asked. Yes, he replied. A hideous smile passed over their faces. You go, said the others to the eldest brother. Papacoevis and his antagonist were soon clenched in each other's arms. He knew the Manito's object. They wanted his flesh, but he was prepared for them. Ha, ha, they cried, and the dust and the dry leaves flew around the wrestlers as if driven by a strong wind. The Manito was strong, but Papacoevis soon found he could master him. He tripped him up and threw him with a giant's force head foremost on a stone, and he fell insensible. The brothers stepped up in quick succession, but Papacoevis put his tricks in full play, and soon all 4 lay bleeding on the ground. The old Manito got frightened and ran for his life. Papacoevis pursued him for sport. Sometimes he was before him, sometimes over his head. Now he would give him a kick, now a push, now a trip, till the Manito was quite exhausted. Meanwhile, Papacoevis' friend and the warriors came up crying, ha 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 ha! Papacoevis is driving him before him. At length, Papacoevis threw the Manitou to the ground with such force that he lay senseless, and the warriors, carrying him off, laid him with the bodies of his sons, and set fire to the whole, consuming them to ashes. Around the lodge, Papacoevis and his friends saw a large number of bones, the remains of warriors whom the Manitos had slain. Taking 3 arrows, Papacoevis called upon the Great Spirit, and then shooting an arrow into the air, he cried, You who are lying down, rise up, or you will be hit. The bones at these words all collected in one place. Again, Papacoevis shot another arrow into the air, crying, You who are lying down, rise up, or you will be hit. And each bone drew towards its fellow. And then he shot a 3rd arrow, crying, You who are lying down, rise up, or you will be hit. And the bones immediately came together. Flesh came over them, and the warriors, whose remains they were, stood before Papacawiwas alive and well. He led them to the chief of the village, who had been his friend, and gave them up to him. Soon after, the chief, with his counselors, came to him, saying, "Who is more worthy to rule than you? You alone can defend us." Papacawiwas thanked the chief, but told him he must set out again in search of further adventures. The chief and the counselors pressed him to remain, but he was resolved to leave them, and so he told the chief to make his friend ruler, while he himself went on his travels. "I will come again," he said, "sometime and see you." "Ho, ho, ho," they all cried. "Come back again and see us." He promised that he would, and he set out alone. After traveling for some time, he came to a large lake, and on looking about, he saw an enormous otter on an island. He thought to himself, "His skin will make me a fine pouch." And drawing near, he drove an arrow into the otter's side. He waded into the lake and with some difficulty dragged the carcass ashore. He took out the entrails, but even then the carcass was so heavy that it was as much as he could do to drag it up a hill overlooking the lake. As soon as he got it into the sunshine where it was warm, he skinned the otter and threw the carcass away, for he said to himself, "The war eagle will come, and then I shall have a chance to get his skin and his feathers to put on my head." Very soon he heard a noise in the air, but he could see nothing. At length a large eagle dropped as if from the sky onto the otter's carcass. Papacawigas drew his bow and sent an arrow through the bird's body. The eagle made a dying effort and lifted the carcass up several feet, but it could not disengage its claws, and the weight soon brought the bird down again. Then Papacawiwas skinned the bird, crowned his head with its feathers, and set out again on his journey. After walking a while, he came to a lake, the water of which came right up to the trees on its banks. He soon saw that the lake had been made by beavers. He took his station at a certain spot to see whether any of the beavers would show themselves. Soon he saw the head of one peeping out of the water to see who the stranger was. "My friend," said Papacawiwas, "could you not turn me into a beaver like yourself?" "I do not know," replied the beaver. "I will go and ask the others." Soon all the beavers showed their heads above the water and looked to see if Papacawiwas was armed, but he had left his bow and arrows in a hollow tree a short distance off. When they were satisfied, they all came near. "Can you not, with all your united power," said he, "turn me into a beaver? I wish to live among you." "Yes," answered the chief, "lie down." And Papacawiwas soon found himself changed into one of them. "You must make me large," said he, "larger than any of you." "Yes, yes," said they, "and by, when we get into the lodge, it shall be done." They all dived into the lake, and Papacawiwas, passing large heaps of limbs of trees and logs at the bottom, asked the use of them. The beavers answered, "They are our winter provisions." When they all got into the lodge, their number was about 100. The lodge was large and warm. "Now we will make you large," said they, exerting all their power. "Will that do?" "Yes," he answered, for he found he was 10 times the size of the largest. "You need not go out," said they. "We will bring your food into the lodge, and you shall be our chief." "Very well," answered Papacawiwas. He thought, "I will stay here and grow fat at their expense." But very soon a beaver came into the lodge out of breath, crying, "We are attacked by Indians." All huddled together in great fear. The water began to lower, for the hunters had broken down the dam, and soon the beavers heard them on the roof of the lodge, breaking it in. Out jumped all the beavers and so escaped. Papacawiwas tried to follow them, but alas, they had made him so large that he could not creep out at the hole. He called to them to come back, but none answered. He worried himself so much in trying to escape that he looked like a bladder. He could not change himself into a man again, though he heard and understand all the hunters said. One of them put his head at the top of the lodge. "Tayau!" cried he. "Tatayaka Tayu, Mishamik, king of the beavers, is in." Then they all got at Papacawiwas and battered in his skull with their clubs. After that, 7 or 8 of them placed his body on poles and carried him home. As he went, he reflected, "What will become of me? My ghost or shadow will not die after they get me to their lodges." When the party arrived home, they sent out invitations to a grand feast. The women took Papacawiwas and laid him in the snow to skin him. But as soon as his flesh got cold, his jibi, or spirit, fled. Papacawiwas found himself standing on a prairie, having assumed his mortal shape. After walking a short distance, he saw a herd of elks feeding. He admired the apparent ease and enjoyment of their life, and thought there could be nothing more pleasant than to have the liberty of running about and feeding on the prairies. He asked them if he could not change him into an elk. "Yes," they answered after a pause. "Get down on your hands and feet." He did so, and soon found himself an elk. "I want big horns and big feet," said he. "I wish to be very large." "Yes, yes," they said. There, exerting all their power. "Are you big enough?" "Yes," he answered, for he saw he was very large. They spent a good time in playing and running. Being rather cold one day, he went into a thick wood for shelter and was followed by most of the herd. They had not been there long before some elks from behind passed them like a strong wind. All took the alarm and off they ran, Papacawiwas with the rest. "Keep out on the plains," said they, but he found it was too late to do so, for they had already got entangled in the thick woods. He soon smelt the hunters, who were closely following his trail, for they had left all the others to follow him. He jumped furiously and broke down young trees in his flight, but it only served to retard his progress. He soon felt an arrow in his side. He jumped over trees in his agony, but the arrows clattered thicker and thicker around him, and at last one entered his heart. He fell to the ground and heard the whoop of triumph given by the warriors. On coming up, they looked at the carcass with astonishment, and with their hands up to their mouth exclaimed, "Tayo! Tayo!" There were about 60 in the party who had come out on a special hunt, for one of their number had, the day before, observed Papacawewa's large tracks in the sand. They skinned him, and as his flesh got cold, his GB took its flight and once more found himself in human form. His passion for adventure was not yet cooled. On coming to a large lake, the shore of which was sandy, he saw a large flock of brant, and speaking to them, he asked them to turn him into a brant. "Very well," said they. "But I want to be very large," said he. "Very well," replied the brant, and soon found himself one of them, of prodigious size, all the others looking on at him in amazement. "You must fly as leader," they said. "No," replied Papacawewas, "I will fly behind." "Very well," said they. "One thing we have to say to you. You must be careful in flying, not to look down, for if you do, something may happen to you." "Be it so," said he, and soon the flock rose up in the air, for they were bound for the north. They flew very fast, with Papacawewas behind. One day, while going with a strong wind, and as swift as their wings would flap, while they passed over a large village, the Indians below raised a great shout, for they were amazed at the enormous size of Papacawewas. They made such a noise that Papacawewas forgot what he had been told about not looking down. He was flying as swift as an arrow, and as soon as he brought his neck in and stretched it down to look at the shouters, his tail was caught by the wind, and he was blown over and over. He tried to right himself, but without success. Down he went from an immense height, turning over and over. He lost his senses, and when he recovered them, he found himself jammed in a cleft in a hollow tree. To get backward or forward was impossible, and there he remained until his brant life was ended by starvation. Then his GB again left the carcass and once more found himself in human shape. Traveling was still his passion, and one day he came to a lodge in which were two old men whose heads were white from age. They treated him well, and he told them he was going back to his village to see his friends and people. The old men said they would aid him and pointed out the way that they said he should go. But they were deceivers. After walking all day, he came to a lodge very like the first, And looking in, he found two old men with white heads. It was, in fact, the very same lodge, and he had been walking in a circle. The old men did not undeceive him, but pretended to be strangers, and said in a kind voice, "We will show you the way." After walking the third day and coming back to the same place, he discovered their trickery, for he had cut a notch in the doorpost. Who are you, said he to them, to treat me so? And he gave one a kick and the other a slap that killed them. Their blood flowed against the rocks near their lodge, and that is the reason there are red streaks in them to this day. Then Papacawiwas burned their lodge. He, he continued his journey, not knowing exactly which way to go. At last he came to a big lake. He ascended the highest hill to try and see the opposite shore, but he could not. So he made a canoe and took a sail on the water. On looking down, he saw that the bottom of the lake was covered with dark fish, of which he caught some. This made him wish to return to his village and bring his people to live near this lake. He sailed on, and towards evening came to an island where he stopped and ate the fish. Next day he returned to the mainland, and while he wandered along the shore, he encountered a more powerful manito than himself, named Manabozho. Papacawiwas thought it best, after playing him a trick, to keep out of his way. He again thought of returning to his village and, transforming himself into a partridge, took his flight towards it. In a short time he reached it, and his return was welcomed with feasting and songs. He told them of the lake and of the fish, and telling them that it would be easier for them to live there, persuaded them all to remove. He immediately began to lead them by short journeys, and all things turned out as he said. While the people lived there, a messenger came to Papacawiwas in the shape of a bear, and said that the bear chief wished to see him at once at his village. Papacawiwas was ready in an instant, and getting on the messenger's back was carried away. Towards evening they ascended a high mountain, and came to a cave in which the bear chief lived. He was a very large creature, and he made Papacawiwas welcome, inviting him into his lodge. As soon as propriety allowed, he spoke and said that he had sent for him because he had heard he was the chief who was leading a large party towards his hunting grounds. "You must know," said he, "that you have no right there, and I wish you to leave the country with your party, or else we might fight." "Very well," replied Papacawiwas, "so be it." He did not wish to do anything without consulting his people. Then he saw that the bear chief was raising a war party, so he said he would go back that night. The bear king told him he might do as he wished, and that one of the bears was at his command. So Papacawiwas, jumping on its back, rode home. Then he assembled the village and told the young men to kill the bear, make ready for a feast, and hang the head outside the village, for he knew the bear spies would soon see it and carry the news to their chief. Next morning, Papacawiwas got all his young warriors ready for the fight. After waiting one day, the bear war party came in sight, making a tremendous noise. The bear chief advanced and said that he did not wish to shed the blood of the young warriors. But if Papacawiwas would consent, they too would run a race, and the winner should kill the losing chief, and all the loser's followers should be slaves of the other. Papacawiwas agreed, and they ran before all the warriors. He was victor, but not to terminate the race too quickly, he gave the bear chief some specimens of his skill, forming eddies and whirlwinds with the sand as he twisted and turned about. As the bear chief came and to the post, Papacawiwas drove an arrow through him. Having done this, he told his young men to take the bears and tie one at the door of each lodge, that they might remain in future as slaves. After seeing that all was quiet and prosperous in the village, Papacawiwas felt his desire for adventure returning. So he took an affectionate leave of his friends and people and started off again. After wandering for a long time, he came to the lodge of Manabozho, who was absent. Papacawiwas thought he would play him a trick. So he turned everything upside down and killed his chickens. Now Manabozho calls all the fowl of the air his chickens, and among the number was a raven, the meanest of birds, and him Papacawiwas killed and hung up by the neck to insult Manabozho. He then went on till he came to a very high point of the rocks, running out into the lake, from the top of which he could see the country as far as eye could reach. While he sat there, Manabozho's mountain chickens flew round and passed him in great numbers. So, out of spite, he shot many of them, for his arrows were sure and the birds many, and he amused himself by throwing the birds down the precipice. At length, a wary bird called out, "Papacawiwas is killing us. Go and tell our father." Away some of them flew away, some of them, and Manabozho soon made his appearance on the plain below. Papacawiwas slipped down the other side of the mountain. Manabozho cried from the top, "The earth is not so large, but I can get up to you." Off Papacawiwas ran, and Manabozho after him. He ran over hills and prairies with all his speed, but his pursuers was still hard after him. Then he thought of a shift. He stopped and climbed a large pine tree, stripped it, all of its green foliage, and threw it to the winds. Then he ran on. When Manabozho reached the tree, it called out to him, "Great Manabozho, give me my life again. Papacawiwas has killed me." "I will do so," said Manabozho, and it took him some time to gather the scattered foliage. Then he resumed the chase. Papacawiwas repeated the same trick with hemlock and with other trees, for Manabozho would always stop to restore anything that called upon him to give it life again. By this means, Papacawiwas kept ahead, but still Manabozho was overtaking him. When Papacawiwas saw an elk, he asked it to take him on its back, and this the animal did, and for some time made great progress. Still, Manabozho was in sight. Papacawiwas dismounted, and coming to a large sandstone rock, he broke it in pieces and scattered the grains. Manabozho was so close upon him at this place, they had almost caught him, but the foundation of the rock cried out, Hai! Name show! Papacawiwas has spoiled me. Will you not restore me to life? Yes, replied Manabozho, and he restored the rock to its previous shape. Then he pushed on in pursuit of Papacawiwas, and he had got so near as to put out his arm to seize him. And when Papacawiwas dodged him and raised such a dust and commotion by whirlwinds as to make the trees break and the sand and the leaves dance in the air. Again and again, Manabozho's hand was put out to catch him, but he dodged him at every turn, and at last, making a great dust, he dashed into a hollow tree, which had been blown down, and changing himself into a snake, crept out at its roots. Well, that he did, for at the moment, Manabozho, who is Ojibajibon, a species of lightning, struck the tree with all his power and shivered it to fragments. Papacawiwas again took human shape, and again Manabozho, pursuing him, pressed him hard. At a distance, Papacawiwas saw a very high rock jutting out into a lake, and he ran for the foot of the precipice, which was abrupt and elevated. As he came near, the Manito of the rock opened his door and told him to come in. No sooner was the door closed than Manabozho knocked at it. Open, he cried in a loud voice. The Manito was afraid of him, but said to his guest, Since I have sheltered you, I would sooner die with you than open the door. Open, Manabozho cried again. The Manitou was silent. Manabozho made no attempt to force the door open. He waited a few moments. Very well, said he. I will give you till night to live. The Manitou trembled, for he knew that when the hour came, he would be shut up under the earth. Night came. The clouds hung low and black, and every moment the forked lightning flashed them. The black clouds advanced slowly and threw their dark shadows afar, and behind was heard the rumbling noise of the coming thunder. When the clouds were gathered over the rock, the thunders roared, the lightning flashed, the ground shook, the solid rock split, tottered, and fell. Under the ruins lay crushed the mortal bodies of Papacawiwas and the Manitou. It was only then that Papacawiwas found that he was really dead. He had been killed before in the shapes of different animals, but now his body, in human shape, was crushed. Manabozho came and took his jibi, or spirit. You, said he to Papacawiwas, shall not be again permitted to live on the earth. I will give you the shape of the war eagle, and you shall be the chief of all birds, and your duty shall be to watch over their destinies. The end of Papacawiwas. How about that for a story? How long did that take?
Well, that one was good.
I hope you all enjoyed that. Let me get a sip of coffee and we'll pick cards, but give me a minute or two.
Well, absolutely.
So, what are folks' reactions to the story? Any? What'd you feel about that?
Oh, let's see. This guy is terrible. What a freak. Oh, look, he's got to go do work stuff. Chloe's in the house. There you are. She misses us all so much. She wants to take it. I'm heading to Georgia in May. Got to see how far I'm going to be from you, Hawkeye.
I'm in South Georgia. You can give me a ring anytime.
There you go. All right. Yep. Sorry, work stuff comes first, right, Lucky? Mm-hmm. Anyway,
I'm a shuffling the cards, so
everybody pick your cards. I know some of them already picked.
Yeah, and you know the way I always do the cards is asking the spirits what message to give to all y'all. All y'all. You heard that right? All y'all.
Yep. All.
All y'all. That's one of them southern things, you know. All y'all. So, but anyway, they wanted me to shuffle one more time, and give me a second here. So, concentrate on the message to give all y'all.
Scotty Boy's got beaver, elk, trout, ant, and eagle.
Trout.
I know, trout.
We don't have. We've got dolphin and whale, and they're not really fish.
Lucky's got beaver, moose, snake, lizard, and dragonfly. Elderberry has goose, dog, bat, crane, bobcat, and frog. And I tell you what I'm going to pick. I'm going to pick, let's see, what do we got? I am going to pick butterfly. And I'm going to pick, I'm going to go with ant. And I'm going to go with whale. And bear. And my kicker is going to be mountain lion. Okay, there's my picks. Nina's got bear. Prosper with ease. There you go. What's up with the cards? Yeah, we're having the cards. Don't you worry. Cards are coming.
I got 3 of them laid out, so just be patient.
Nina's got bear. I picked bear too.
Amongst yourself, and so far, none of y'all got any of these 3.
Well, I got a bug in there. A couple of bugs. I got some water animal, and I got a bear and mountain lion. It's probably going to be like badger or something instead. But oh well.
Okay, I've got 4 cards out. I'm not even halfway through the deck, so this might be a long one. But I've got bat.
Oh, somebody had bat.
And hummingbird.
Somebody had hummingbird too.
Spider.
Bat, hummingbird, spider.
And dragonfly. Upside down. And hawk just showed up right side up. That's an interesting spread. How about that? was swan, right side up, which is grace. Wow. That's what an interesting. Wow. A bunch of flying things. You ain't gonna believe
Oh,
this.
yeah. Bat, hummingbird, spider, hawk, swan. I know I'm missing one.
Yeah, the one you missed was dragonfly. So we've got bat that flies, hummingbird
Yep.
that flies, spider, dragonfly that flies, hawk that flies, swan that flies, and the last one so far is eagle that flies. Okay,
Wow.
holy mackerel, Andy. Wow, everything that, oh, wow, what a spread. And I'm not done yet. I got to see if there's anything left in these cards. Wow, what a spread.
Well, Scotty Boy got eagle right. And let's see. Lucky got dragonfly.
So
Goose, dog, crane, bobcat, frog. Elderberry got nothing. He's got 3 things in there that fly. Goose, bat, and he did get bat. We do got bat. Sorry. Elderberry got
that's
bat.
the first one up.
Yeah.
So let me go over these again. I gotta find the book here. It's been a week since I got it out. So this has got to be, y'all have been here over the years and have seen me pull the cards. There is not it. The spider is the only thing that could be considered a land critter.
Yep.
That doesn't fly. But they don't really touch the land. They operate up flying around on their web. So it's still kind of a well, it's not a land critter in my opinion, okay? So let me go over these again just because I can't believe that the dang things are, oh man. Crap. Let me turn this off. I got the cards across the thingy, and when I move them,
yeah,
does my computer. So, but anyway, so bat, hummingbird. This is the order.
Yep. Okay.
Spider.
Yep.
Dragonfly upside down.
Yeah.
Hawk right side up. Swan right side up. Eagle upside down. And here you're going to believe this one. The last card has still got feathers. It's the grouse, but it dances on the ground. So,
but it flies.
as a whirling dervish. So,
yeah.
But dragonfly don't have feathers, but oh my goodness gracious, and the bat doesn't have feathers, but wow, what a spread. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards tonight.
Hell,
deep breath. Deep breath must be an important message, but I can't believe most of them are flying things. Golly, this is just. I'm sorry. I'm a little overwhelmed at the moment, but just the fact that these things. Okay, so we're starting off with bat, who is rebirth. So this whole spread is the rebirth of us, I guess, the rebirth of an idea. Bat embraces the idea of a shamanistic death. The ritual death of the healer is steeped in many secrets. A shaman death is symbolic to the initiative to the old ways of life and personal identity. The basic idea of ancient initiation was to break down all the former notions of the self. So, right off the bat, they're telling you to wash away whatever you think, because apparently the next cards are what you should be um, involved with, because bat is the symbol of rebirth. So, in these, in with the bat is the rebirth. You cleanse yourself, and you get rid of the old stuff, and just be open. If bat has appeared in your cards today, it symbolizes the need for a ritualistic death, some of the way of life that no longer suits your needs. This can be a time of letting go of old habits and of assuming the position in life that prepares you for rebirth. So that's telling you, get ready. Now, hummingbird is next in line. It's hummingbird is next in line. But which is also interesting, that is 42, hummingbird is 44, and spider is 43 in the book. So that's interesting that they're all, stuck right here. So hummingbird is joy. So you're going to have a rebirth, and the first thing you do is you're going to bring in joy. Hummingbird is associated with the ghost shirt religion, which taught that a certain dance done properly would bring about the return of the animals and that white people would disappear. Once again, the original people would know the joy of the old ways. In Mayan teachings, hummingbird is connected to the black sun and the fifth world. Hummingbird can give us the medicine to solve the riddle of the contradictions of duality. Hummingbirds can fly in all directions. Great Spirit created hummingbird to be slightly different from other feathered creatures. Because of their magical qualities, hummingbird feathers have been used for love charms. If hummingbird has come into our cards today, get ready to laugh musically and enjoy Creator's many gifts. So no bat's saying, open up your heart, get rid of all the old stuff. Hummingbird is coming in and saying, get ready to laugh musically and enjoy Creator's many gifts. Ahoo. Hummingbird hears celestial music and in its harmony with it. Hummingbird may invite you to any kind of art or music. Never be coarse in front of a hummingbird, for this is fragile medicine, for which may have no understanding of worldly affairs. Beauty is the target, and the hummingbird with its message. So now spider is the next in line, and spider is about weaving. Spider wove the web that brought the humans the first picture of the alphabet. The letters were part of the angles of her web. Deer asked Spider what she was weaving and why all the lines looked like symbols. Spider said, "Why, dear, it is time for Earth's children to learn to make records." Okay, so here's Bat with hummingbird bringing in joy and music. Spider is saying, she's weaving records, so there's something to be read. But Deer said, but they already have pictures. And Spider said, but Earth's children are growing more complex, and they will need to know more. So the ones who come later won't be able to read the petroglyphs. So it was that Spider wove the first primordial alphabet. Spider's body is made like the number 8. Spider weaves the webs of fate for those who get caught in her web and become her dinner. This is similar to humans who get caught in the web of illusion in the physical world and never see beyond the horizon into other dimensions. So, no, a hummingbird is talking about paying attention to the joy and the music and the laughter. So here it is that not to get caught in the web of being too human. In other words, keep the spirit light. If you, get caught in being human too much, you miss the spirit of joy, which is coming up. So, oops, dang, I lost my place. Hang on. The web of fate also represents the wheel of life, which does not include any alternatives or solutions. It is typically human to get caught in the polarity of good or bad fortune. You paying attention? So it's up to you to get caught in good or bad fortune. And so if you're smart, you will miss it. And so the most important message from Spider is that you are an infinite being who will continue to weave the patterns of life and living throughout time. Do not fail to see the expansiveness of eternal life. So that's saying rebirth. Hummingbird is telling you about joy and harmony and music, and Spider is saying that, remember the expansiveness of eternal life. And it's up to you to get caught in human things. Now, Dragonfly is next, and it's upside down, number 27. Dragonfly is the illusion. Well, right after Spider's like, anything you get caught with, and Dragonfly is the illusion. How about that one, my friends? Boy, this is a really interesting spread. Dragonfly medicine is the dream time in the illusionary facade we accept as physical reality. So too many people get caught in the illusion is that in the physical world that there are things out there that you have become to depend upon, and that you have to have these things. And the more that you have to have these things, that's the illusion. Okay. So it can be anything. If you're like, oh, I got to have a new watch, or I got to have a new, that's the illusion of that, you've missed the point. So Spider's like, you can get caught in that trap. And Dragonfly's like, you can miss the illusions. Some legends say the dragonfly was once a dragon, and that dragon had scales like dragonfly's wings. The breath of dragon brought forth the art of magic and the illusion of changing form. Now, this changing form is you and we can change our appearance. Nobody's even said a word about when I shave my beard. And so, but you can change your form, you can cut your hair, so you can change yourself. Dragonfly is the essence of the winds of change, the messages of wisdom and enlightenment. And so, Spider was kind of working along those same edges, stay out of the human world to get caught. Now it's upside down. So, and it's trying to say, does somebody else has swiped your power? Have you been caught in an illusion that weakens your true feelings or minimizes your abilities? So follow Dragon to the place inside your body where the magic is still alive in you. That's like creativity. And drink deeply in its power. The strength belongs to you. It is the power of becoming the illusion. This ability is ever changing and contains within it the knowledge that you are creating it all. So spiders, like, don't get caught in the web. And Dragonfly here is saying, listen, you're the one, you're the creator, not somebody else. And so here comes Hawk, number 2. And I think that's the messenger. Um, so I hope this makes sense to y'all. Hawk, yes. Hawk is the messenger, and it is right side up. So Hawk is akin to Mercury, the messenger of the gods. Hawk medicine teaches you to be observant. So here you go. You're going to cleanse yourself. You're going to look out with hummingbird for joy and music. Spider's going to say, stay out of the trap. Hummingbird is saying, you become the illusion. You create what you want. Hawk medicine teaches you to be observant, to look at your surroundings, observe the obvious in everything that you do. Life is sending you signals, and it is. Life is the initiation. If you pull the Hawk card, then right now a clue about the magic of life. Here we go with the magic of life again, and it's in all of these cards. Is being brought to you. This magic can imbue you with the power to overcome current stressful situations. In other words, we all have the power to overcome whatever comes before us. It might be really tough, but we have the power. What is called for here is an intuitive ability to discern the messages that are carried with the cry of the hawk. The ancients recognized this bird of prey as a messenger bringing tidings to their earth walk, the good red road. From the world of the grandfathers and grandmothers who lived before them. If Hawk were to magically cry, it was a sign to be aware or to be aware. There's 2 points of that. So always be observant. So if Hawk is circled and landed in your card spread, you are to be aware of the signals in your life. So here you are opening up joy. Don't get stuck in the web, which means don't get stuck in the earthly realms. Dragonfly is saying the same thing. And Hawk is saying, be observant as to what's coming in around you. And now what's coming in around you is the next card, which is Swan, number 39. And it happens to be Grace. Little Swan flew through the dream time looking for the future. Now here we are. We've come all these cards and now we're looking for the future with Swan. She rested for a moment in the coolness of the pond and looking for a way for the entry point to the future. There was a moment of confusion for Swan as she knew that what had happened, she had happened into the dream time by accident. This was her first time alone, and she was a bit concerned by the dream time landscape. In other words, she slipped into another dimension. As Swan looked high above Sacred Mountain, she saw the biggest swirling black hole she had ever seen. Dragonfly came flying by. So here's Dragonfly helping Swan out 2 cards later. Okay, interesting. And Swan stopped him to ask him about the black hole. Dragonfly said, Swan, that is the doorway to the other planes of imagination. What did Hummingbird say? Music, laughter, good things, imagination. I have been the guardian of the illusion for many years. That was Dragonfly. If you want to enter there, you would have to ask permission and earn the right. Swan was not sure that she wanted to enter the black hole. She asked Dragonfly what was necessary for her to earn the entry. And Dragonfly replied, You must be willing to accept whatever the future holds as it is presented to you without trying to change Great Spirit's plan. Swan looked at her ugly little duckling body and then answered, I will be happy to abide by Great Spirit's plan. I won't fight the currents of the black hole. I will surrender to the flow of the spiral and trust what I am shown. Dragonfly was very happy with Swan's answer and began to spin the magic to break the pond's illusion. Suddenly, Swan was engulfed by a whirlpool in the center of the pond. Swan reappeared many days later, but now she was graceful and white and long-necked. Dragonfly was stunned. Swan, what happened to you? Swan smiled and said, Dragonfly, I learned to surrender my body to the power of the Great Spirit. Are y'all listening? Surrender yourself to the power of the Great Spirit and was taken to where the future lives. I saw many wonders high on Sacred Mountain, and because of my faith, and my acceptance, accept and receive, I have been changed. I have learned to accept the state of grace. Dragonfly was very happy for Swan. So it is that we learn to surrender to the grace of the rhythm of the universe. Y'all paying attention? And slip from our physical bodies into the dream time. Swan medicine teaches us to be at one with all planes of consciousness and to trust in Great Spirit's protection. If you've pulled Swan, it ushers in a time of altered states of awareness and development. What did Hawk say? Be observant, pay attention to what's coming. And here, the Swan is telling you that there ushers in a time of awareness and of development of your intuitive abilities. The Swan card is telling you to accept your ability to know what lies ahead. Now, that's some interesting stuff. So, y'all have the power. We all have the power. And the next card in line is Eagle, which is number 1. So, we've got both great birds, Eagle and Hawk, in this. And Eagle is the spirit, of course. You know, what else could come up, right? Eagle medicine is the power of the Great Spirit, the connection to the divine. Swan just went through it and listened to the creator and came out and understood the grace of it all. It is the ability to live in the realm of the spirit and yet remain connected and balanced within the realm of the earth. So eagle is the spirit and can be in both places. If you pulled this symbol, eagle is reminding you to take heart and gather your courage, for the universe is presenting you with an opportunity to soar above the mundane levels of your life. Now this card is upside down. But if you pulled eagle in reverse, you have forgotten your power. and you've forgotten your connectedness to the Great Spirit. So here on all of these cards right here, it's telling you to listen, pay attention, to accept. Swan went through all this trouble and went into the dream time. And now Eagle is saying, wait a minute, you may have forgotten your connectedness to the Great Spirit. You may have failed to recognize the light that is in you, that is always available to you. On some level, Eagle is telling you to seek higher ground on which to build your nest. Eagle's nest is usually high in the mountains or on top of tall trees or in places that, always looks above everything else. It may be a time for a vision quest so that you can commune with the Great Spirit. Fasting and praying will surely bring an answer. Seek lofty ideals, and illumination will be close at hand. Now, Bat said that, at the very first card, there needs to be a spiritual death. So, Eagle's saying, maybe it's time that, you go on a little bit of spirit quest, but you have all of these positive cards leading you in the way of grace with the swan. But here's the thing, you have to be able to accept what the Creator has in store for you. That's the ticket, that's the trick. And the last card is number 34, which is grouse. And grouse is about swirling and whirling and dancing. And the grouse is a sacred spiral. So, with all of the things that have come up here, now there's the sacred spiral with the grouse to bring these cards to an end, which to me means that you have the opportunity to, get back into things. The sacred spiral is also one of the oldest known symbols for personal power. When you think about grouse medicine, visualize a whirlpool or even a tornado. Many Plains Indian tribes dance the grouse dance to honor these birds. The movement of the dance follows a spiral, which is the ancient symbol of birth and rebirth. So, right in the beginning, Bat said rebirth. So, here's grouse saying rebirth, but now it is upside down. So, maybe we have forgotten something. Drawing the grouse medicine card in reverse position signals a dissipation of energy and a lack of control and discipline. In other words, as you come through these cards, you have forgotten something, and Eagle's trying to tell you the medicine, and Grouse is saying that maybe you dissipated energy in the wrong direction. It is symbolic of a loss of connection to the source. There again, they're saying, hey, Swan said, all you got to do is accept. Eagle's warning that, you may have lost your connection, and Grouse is kind of right in there. Signifies a lack of clear intent behind an outpouring of energy. In other words, you're expending energy in the wrong direction for the wrong thing. And using this sacred dance as a tool to right the grouse, you may also find that it is a tool as a tool to center and ground you. Think about the dance of the grouse. If you have become so involved with an idea or problem that you are no longer seeing it clearly, you may feel dizzy or lacking in concentration. This is a sign that you have entered the thought universe and are not connected to physical reality. You need grounding if this occurs. Dancing or walking will put you back in touch with earth and your body. Grouse may teach you how to notice the energy flows that puts you in harmony and balance with your body and your mind and your spirit. So Grouse is saying he's given you the opportunity, you know, here's all these positive cards through Swan. And now Eagle upside down is like, you forgot your connection? And Grouse is saying, Grouse can teach you how to notice the energy flows that puts you back in harmony and balance your body and balance your mind and spirit. So have faith and pray with Grouse and go walking. So those are the cards. Wow, what a bunch of stuff, hey? I see it all positive, you know, till you get to Eagle. But if you've forgotten, honestly, your connection to the spirit, then, you know, Grouse is saying go ground yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think those were good cards.
What do you think of that spread?
I think that was very good. Very good.
Boy, that took us right past 12, didn't it?
Yeah, sure did.
It was a long story in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards. So
yeah, there was a lot of them.
Thank you all for paying attention. I think these were good cards, you know, but a lot of times, you know, and I was thinking about it recently, as per these cards, actually, maybe, and I influenced these cards probably, but that, you know, we have all of these things, you know, but how many of us actually, you know, for the future, there's a bunch of stuff going on for future. How many of us actually think, you know, I'm just going to let things be and I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, and creator's going to take care of things rather than be all flighty and everything, and you know, and then Eagle saying, you know, maybe you're not grounded, you know, and Grouse is saying, but you can still walk and absorb the energy, then you can still right yourself. So, you know, but there's a lot of stuff going on these days. So, keep your spirit about you. Don't lose your spirit. Keep it, you know, and rebirth means, you know, there's going to be new things that we're going to have to accept. So, take it with a grain of salt and trust the creator. Above all things, trust the creator. Accept and receive, as I always say, accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings from the universe. And that's what the cards are kind of telling you. So there you go.
That's right. That's right. Good spread. I like it. I like it. Good note to end the week on. With that, what was I going to say? You got a show tonight.
Maybe so. We'll see.
Maybe so.
It's all about trying to get a connection.
Okay. Yeah, that's for sure. Let's see. Oh, my image, my light went out. Oh, crazy. Anyway, anything else? We got a show on what is it? Oops. 50 there. There we go. We got a show on Saturday night. Hope y'all can join us there. Remember, go out and get yourself your mug here. It's a Native American Myths and Legends with Robert and David, Hawkeye, the #1 storyteller on YouTube. So there you go. Get yours and get yourself a Milky Way shirt or one of those ones that say Native American Myths and Legends on them. There's Joanne.
Hey, dancing gypsy.
There you go. Yeah, go get yourself a shirt or a mug or whatever you want to get. Summer's coming up. Splurge, buy one for somebody else. You know, it's all about spreading the word that we have the Milky Way Soul Tribe with our new shirt like this. It's over on Nina's channel. All the stuff is in the links below. If you can afford it, go get yourself one. If you can't afford it, don't. It's simple as that. Support the tribe, spread the word, share this among your friends so that they can tune in too. Don't be greedy and save this show all to yourself. Let's see, other than that, I don't have any big news. We got a show on, me and Nita got a show about on Beyond Truth on Sunday. We're going to be talking about the space mission to the moon. What do you think of that one?
Was it real or was it Memorex?
That is so true. Was it real or not? You know, it seems like every time they go to space, we get our conspiracy hats on and go, oh, look, that don't look right. Oh, look what they're doing over there.
You know what? The one thing that has surprised me, and there has been some pictures with stars in them, but there are pictures of the moon and the earth. There are no stars. That's what bothers me. There are no stars. But then there is one picture where it's the an eclipse, where the moon is in front, and there are stars in the background. So it's not like they aren't any, but it's really strange that some pictures the background is just completely black. There should be, to me, there should be stars. So anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a goofy thing. Either they're playing a hell of a good trick on us. All I think in my head is you went all that way. They sent this big rocket, cost millions of dollars, sent it all the way there to the moon so they could see the backside of the moon. Couldn't you just send a probe, you know, a rocket that would just fly around there and take the pictures of the moon?
Yeah, but just like when they did it before, they sent first, you know, folks around the moon and back just to test the equipment. And so that's what this was all about. This was about whether or not they could do it, whether or not the toilet would work, you know, for crying out loud. You know, and what else might or could go wrong. And so they wanted to test out a theory. Could they slingshot them around the moon and bring them back without, you know, using any propulsion? I mean, a bunch of things. And plus, they had some really good cameras on board. So it's going to be interesting what NASA allows us to see.
This is true. I'm just surprised that they didn't have, you know, they had those cameras back in the day and they, oh boy, you know, it just makes you think, oh, how did they take pictures with them? You know, this is the build. Joanne says this is the build up of aliens, the reveal of aliens. I think that too. I think, yeah, we went and took pictures of the backside of the moon, and then it's going to be, oh, look, there's an alien spaceship over there. And they got Venus.
I have personally seen spaceships go across the face of the moon. I mean, like from a telescope, and like, what the hell? You know, and there's 2 or 3 of them that goes across the face of the moon. And there's been a lot of other people who have seen the same thing. So, you know, it's going to be interesting, you know, whether or not this new space mission is going to usher in any kind of, you know, UFO stuff. We'll see.
Yep, we will. We will. For sure. And with that, okay, so catch you on a show maybe later tonight, and tune on in over there on your channel. And remember, everybody, as we sign off, we're going to be on Thursday nights from now on, and tune in then. And with that, go out and make yourself a great day. Smile, wave at somebody, change their life, surprise them and say, hey, I see you. You're a good person.
Open the door for somebody.
Yeah. Just smile. It doesn't cost anything. It'll brighten the world. And change one little thing, and the whole world goes in a new direction. And so with that, everyone, remember to go out and do your best at that, because you want to be the frequency you want to receive, everyone. Love you all. Peace, everybody.
Cheers.